Effect of bilingualism of language acquisition in cochlear implant recipients. Pamela B. Fife, M.A., CCC Speech, Pathology, Audiology, Adjunct Assistant Professor, West Los Angeles College, California, USA. As a 40-year Asst certified speech-language pathologist and audiologist, working with English-speaking and bilingual children, developing their language and speech skills in rural New Mexico was my profession. Teaching communications to a culturally diverse population consisting primarily of Hispanic, Indian, and Anglo populations at the University of New Mexico, Los Alamos, was my second career for 20 years. Throughout my career, various approaches to teaching language skills were used, with successful results. Multimodal techniques, sign language, auditory verbal, verbal visual, total communication, lip reading skills with deaf students, mentally handicapped, language impaired, and speech impaired students and adults were in all my population. When asked to speak on the effect of bilingualism of language acquisition in cochlear implant recipients by one of my clinical fellowship year students who I mentored and supervised in Washington State, my first thought was, I could spend a semester teaching that topic. The literature, although not as extensive as what is available dealing with cochlear implant patients alone, still is being conducted as more and more children with severe to profound sensorineural hearing loss are bilingual and are turning to unilateral and bilateral cochlear implants rather than hearing aids as the optimum treatment for their speech, language, and educational success. The first consideration to successful language development, once familiarity with the cochlear implants has been established, is to assess the recipient's listening skills. It is critical for the SLP to collaborate with the clinical audiologist and the bilingual teacher to assess the child's functional listening, using tests such as the Early Speech Perception Test, ESP, the Test of Auditory Processing, TAPS, and the Auditory Processing Abilities Test, APAT, which are normed on children as young as 2 years old. And this will help to design an auditory learning program to develop listening, speaking, and language acquisition opportunities to ensure successful integration into mainstream education. A landmark study conducted at the House Institute in LA in USA was titled Multilingualism and Children with Cochlear Implants. It found these results. Measures of receptive and expressive language reveal no significant differences in scores between the oral multilingual and the oral monolingual groups. And statistically significant gains were demonstrated by both groups over time. This correlated with numerous studies of normal hearing populations where English language skills of the bilingual participants were commensurate with those of their monolingual English-speaking peers. Both languages of bilingual children with hearing loss can be supported without having adverse effects on the children's language development. However, by contrast, multilingual children in total communication environments do, in fact, appear to be at risk for slower development of functional speech perception skills, probably due to the trilingual component. The last factor, but definitely not the least, concerns speech-language production accuracy and articulation. In a study by Sosa Bunta in 2019, a comparison was conducted in monolingual and bilingual Spanish-English-speaking children with cochlear implants, comparing them to their peers with normal hearing. The results indicated that children with CIs demonstrated lower accuracy and more whole word variability than their peers with no hearing loss. Bilingual children had lower accuracy in English than in Spanish. High rates of whole word variability were prevalent in the speech of children with CIs, even after many years of CI experience. And bilingual language exposure did not appear to negatively impact phonological development in these children with CIs. In conclusion, many factors influence the successful acquisition of language among CI recipients, whether bilingual or not. One implant versus two, age at implantation, integration of the family, compliance with the rehabilitation team, cooperation in planning educational goals in the school setting by all providers. To quote a short article in the March 2020 issue of the Asst Leader by Laura Sankey, as these children develop into adulthood, what they seem to want is to understand their identity as deaf individuals, to find a community of peers and role models that share their experiences. Her advice to clinicians is very good, I think. Incorporate aspects of deaf culture and the deaf community into your treatment sessions. Expose these students to deaf role models. We should show our students the beauty that lies in their language, culture, and the community that surrounds them. Thank you.